Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. I am Simply G, and today I'm going to be showing off all of the anime that I got for this month of May. There's quite a bit here, more than I expected, I think, and a couple unusual things as well. Apologies in advance. It is raining cats and dogs over here, so you will probably hear the rain. It's been hailing, thunder, lightning. It's been a crazy week of weather here where I live. And so I can't really not film without that going on in the background, so apologies. But hopefully it won't be too distracting whilst I show off all of these things that I got for this month. And I hope you guys enjoy. So first off is more merchandise. This is from the Kyoto Animation birthday series, this year's birthday series for free. This is in specific for Dive to the Future and Road to the World, which was the most recent free release. And so May, well actually this came out in April, but May is when I received Asahi Shina, who is one of the more major characters in the High Speed movie and then the third season of Free. He's a swimmer that Haru and Makoto in particular know from middle school. He was on the same team then. And yeah, I mean, like with all of these, I always buy the boys, and with this particular run of birthday goods, I am getting the rubber strap as well as the clear file. So the back side of this has the same artwork as the rubber strap, and then the non-chibi-fied version on the front of the clear file. Next for merchandise is actually a figure. I found this from a local seller. They were trying to sell him, and I've said before that I don't really buy Nendoroids. I say as Pitchit is right there in the corner, but I don't generally buy Nendoroids aside from a couple different reasons, but one series in particular, and this is from that series. So this is Ushijima Wakatoshi from Haikyuu. So the box, and there he is just set up. I own not all of, but majority of the Haikyuu Nendos that have been released. I own all of Karasuno, and I own the main characters from each of the rival teams. So I have Kenman Kuro from Nekoma, I have Bokuto and Akashi from Fukuro Danshi, and then obviously Ushijima from his school. I can never remember his school name. I also have Oikawa and Iwazumi from Aoba Josai. So yeah, I don't have some of the other Nekoma boys that they put out, most notably Lev and Yaku. I don't have the alternate uniform, school uniform versions of any of these characters because I don't pose them or do anything with them that often. So I've just kept it to these few, and I am planning on getting some of the future Nendos that they put out for this series because new characters, new important characters. But yeah, he's very, he's a good boy. He's not very expressive, so he doesn't come with a huge amount of faceplates or anything. You can see he has two down there. He has a closed smiley face one, and then a open mouth one. But I just have his standard yes, this is my face and I'm good at volleyball face on. So yeah, that's what I got, and I'm really happy that I was able to get him for a pretty decent price from a local seller rather than having to hunt him down secondhand off of figure sites or pre-owned figure sites. Now, next are some odd little things as well. They're on DVD, and this isn't something that I tend to buy or collect, mainly because a lot of these particular things that are available in English legally are not ones that I'm super interested in, but both of these I found for a really, really good deal and decided to buy them whilst I had the opportunity because I've been wanting to watch them for a long time. So the first one is actually the Australian release of this. It did have a US release, but I do think it's out of print now by a lot of years. But this is the Ping Pong live-action movie adaptation of the manga of the same name by Taiyo Matsumoto. This is obviously adapting the manga and is a really, really good adaptation. I had heard nothing but good things, most notably from Uchu Shelf, who, if you're not following him, please do. He's wonderful, and he's a huge, huge fan of Ping Pong. It was kind of really heartwarming to see him finally get his copy of the English manga this last week. But he had mentioned that this was the best adaptation or the best version of the story, perhaps aside from the manga. Although I love the anime for Ping Pong. I haven't read the manga, but I do have it on order, so hopefully one day it will reach me. But this I had wanted to watch, and having come from the anime, I do really enjoy this one as well. I haven't read the manga, so I can't compare, but I think the themes are both incredibly strong. The acting in this is great. The characters are great. I mean, Matsumoto is a fantastic mangaka and writes fantastic manga, and so I knew I wouldn't inherently be disappointed, like story-wise or character-wise with this. And ultimately, it was just a great film overall. Really liked it. And yeah, I was really, really, really lucky to find this. It's very out of print in the US, and thus all of the copies that I was able to find for the Region 1 release were like tens, if not like over $100 for a DVD copy of this. Whereas this release, I was able to find on eBay locally for like $5, a little more than $5. So I was like, yep, I'm just gonna get that one. And I'm pretty sure it's still readily available, although it is technically out of print as well. But yeah, I don't buy a lot of live action films that are anime or manga adaptations, just because all of the ones that I really, really love, things like Princess Jellyfish and the Chihayafuru films, are ones that haven't gotten a legal release in the US or in English-speaking territories, or disc release, I should say, because those ones did get a release. They got a cinematic run. But the more often than not, the live-action films that get licensed by like Funimation and such are things like the Parasite movies, the Tokyo Ghoul movies, Attack on Titan, things that I'm not really that interested in and have no real urge to watch the live action version of. So yes, it's interesting that this was an earlier license for the US, and before the anime was ever made, and before years and years and years before the manga was ever licensed, of course, because we're only getting that now. It's kind of a testament to Matsumoto's work in his manga and how many people respect him and love this particular story, that this did get a disc release. So yeah, nice to have this in the collection. And nice to have it like the local release, which I wasn't aware that there even was until I went looking for it. Then I have another live action film. This is the US release. I don't think this got a local release here in Australia. I do think it got one in the UK though. And this is an adaptation of another manga, one that I love deeply. And that is Mushishi The Movie. This is actually an interesting little thing because this film was directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, who, for those within manga fandom, may recognize because he is the creator, the mangaka of Akira, as well as the director of the anime film Akira. So he's actually made quite a few films, including Akira, including Steam Boy. This is only the second of 2 live action films that he ever made, and it's really good. I think it's an interesting take on the story. It adapts many of the more iconic stories within the manga, most notably Ginko's past and like who he is, as well as his relationship with the, I guess, archivist is perhaps the correct word, of Mushi stories. There's also the Chasing the Rainbow story, as well as allusions to the bridge building episode. So if you've seen season 1 of Mushishi, you will recognize a lot of the stories in this. Also, it starts with the un and the ah story, which is about sound. It's done very, very beautifully. This film does very heavily lean into the horror aspects of Mushishi and kind of the uneasiness of the inhuman aspect of the setting and of these, I guess, characters, this magical element. It's very good, I think. And interestingly, so this is a Funimation release. I don't know about Ping Pong because I didn't watch either of these dubbed. I watched them Japanese with subtitles. But this disc has an English dub, and it has the original cast, English cast of the first season of anime, which is like kind of funny when you consider that the second season never got an English dub, but the film did, and then it's like, wow, this is a lot going on. Regardless, this was a very interesting movie. It's one that I had actually wanted to watch for a long time. It had been sitting in my Amazon cart forever. I mean, like years and years and years and years. And it's always been relatively cheap. It goes up and down, but I finally found it, or it was finally at a price that was like crazy not to buy. And so I finally jumped on it and was able to watch it this week. And yeah, really enjoyed it. I wish more of the lesser known franchise films would get licensed, because those are the ones I would like to buy. Now on to the anime itself. I do have a local release, so an Australian release here, and that is the standard edition, which is really the only edition we got here, of Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. So this is the complete series on Blu-ray, 2 discs, and then it also, like the limited editions in the US and the UK, it comes with a 3-disc soundtrack. Probably not something that I will ever listen to, but that's a pretty cool little extra. I already owned this show. I owned it in the UK limited edition, which was a chipboard box with DVD size cases. It had a case for the Blu-ray, case for the DVD, and the case for the music soundtracks. I love Nozaki-kun. It's hilarious. I think it's one that a lot of people would enjoy. It's a fun shonen romance, kind of poking fun of a lot of the tropes and expectations within shoujo manga. It has a wonderful cast of characters who are all very lovable but not too bright. And it is currently on Netflix, so watch it there if you've never seen it before. But this is basically just downgrading to a standard edition. I don't have the shelf space, and I don't really feel the need for the larger limited edition within the collection, especially as I will never watch the DVDs, and I will very likely never listen to the soundtrack. And I tend to dislike like DVD size packaging boxes for anime or for anything, but especially for a release that I'm mainly buying for the Blu-ray release. So yeah, this was like $12 or $15 locally. Picked it up, and I will be selling my limited edition just to recoup costs and to give that a new home, because I don't have the shelf space for it anymore, unfortunately. Then for anime, we have I guess this is a recent-ish release. This is the Essentials release for a little show called Shonen Maid. This is the complete series. It has the OVA as well. Funimation previously released this on DVD and Blu-ray. And for as potentially concerning maybe or off-putting as the premise or the art style might make this series look, this is actually a really sweet, warm little story about family and and connecting with the people around you. So this is a story of a elementary school kid who is this kid here. His mother has recently passed away, which leaves him an orphan. And so he is taken in by his sister's brother, who is this character here, who is a very famous and well-known, I think, fashion designer. He's some sort of within the fashion industry. Who owns this huge mansion, and he's he's really lovely, and he's really hopeful and encouraging, having his nephew living with him now, but he's also kind of a slob. And our main character, he grew up basically looking after the house because in a single parent household, he had to take on a lot of the chores himself. So he actually really enjoys cleaning and cooking and having like really neat and tidy area around him. So he takes on this job. Like he decides that he wants to become a maid or like take on all of these chores to make sure that the house is in order, because he cannot live in as messy a space as his uncle likes to keep. His uncle also has like a butler kind of business partner who is this character here. And then this girl is I don't remember if she's a middle school or high school. I haven't watched the entire show since it first came out, so apologies if my memory is a little hazy. And then this kid is one of our main characters' classmates. And it's again, like, I think with the title like Shonen Maid, there's a lot of potential of being like kind of fetishy and perhaps like inappropriate, but it's really not that at all. It is quite sweet. I think the character never plays into this expectation of, because he's, a maid and that he likes cleaning and cooking, that he's overly girly or like gay or anything like that, because he enjoys that. He has more quote unquote feminine hobbies. And it's really nice because of that. It doesn't feel perverse. It doesn't feel like it's taking advantage of this literal child who's like 10 years old. So it's very it's a fun one. It's got a lot of heart to it. It's kind of a light slice of life comedy series with a real thread of heartbreak and grief. And again, finding family and finding that support system, especially being so young, and then having to look after yourself, or feeling like you have to look after yourself after that point. It's wonderful. I do think people should maybe check it out, especially if my explanation has sounded like something you might be interested in. When I got this, I watched the OVA because that was the only one, that part that I hadn't watched, and that was fun. It was cute, it was fun, funny, and I do want to rewatch this sometime in the future, although I don't know when that will be. Next is another US release. This is another Funimation release, in fact, as well. This is the classics release for Black Lagoon, the complete collection. This has both seasons and the OVA, Roberta's Blood Trail, on it. So both seasons, both 12-episode seasons on 3 discs, and then the OVA on its own disc. This is the cover, but I flipped it over, so we have this cover now. So I bought this secondhand from Second Spin just as they were going out of business in their kind of liquidate everything sale. I'd been meaning to pick it up for a long time, it's a little too pricey as new for what I was wanting. Because this was basically just like with Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, it was a a kind of downgrading buy for me. I just wanted to get a smaller release for this show because I really enjoy it, and I bought it a couple times on various formats and things. And so I just wanted it, no frills attached discs in the collection, and this is what I got. So if you're not familiar with Black Lagoon, that would surprise me a lot because I think this series still now is very beloved, is kind of a classic amongst anime and manga fans. It does have a ongoing manga, although it is constantly on hiatus, so on and off again. The 11th volume just came out like a couple months ago, but it's a very slow release for the manga. The anime has been released in its entirety by Funimation, and I think Geneon before that. But this is kind of a classic action anime series. I don't think too many people would be unfamiliar with the story, but if you are, this is the story of a Japanese businessman who goes by Rock within the series. He is kidnapped by these kind of mercenary pirates when he's in a trip in Southeast Asia for ransom. He's being held hostage by these people because he has information for his company that obviously someone wants. His company refuses to pay the ransom, and so he basically just says, screw you, and decides to join the Lagoon company that are the ones who kidnapped him. So yeah, aside from Rock, who is kind of the quintessential businessman, he's very good at negotiation, obviously coming from a office job and having superiors that he has to kind of snuggle up to within Japan. He becomes sort of the brains and the talk of the operation, more so than a lot of the other members can be. So he definitely helps with negotiation between the Lagoon Company and their clients. We also have Ravi, who is on the cover here. She is iconic. I think most people recognize her even if they haven't seen the show. She's this badass, dual-wielding, gun-toting, filthy-mouthed young woman. She is kind of the main character for the series along with Rock, but I think she's certainly the one that steals the show. We also have Dutch, who's kind of the boss of the whole thing. He's ex-Navy, I believe, or ex-Marines. And he's the one with a lot of the connections. He's the one who actually owns this whole company. And then we have Benny, who is their information guy. So he obviously is able to collect information and find information that people can't tend to find. We also have other recurring characters like Balalaika, who's part of the Russian mafia. There's a lot of stuff with the Colombian cartels and things like that. So there's a lot of bad people and a lot of hitmen, those sorts of things. A lot of colorful characters in Black Lagoon, to say the least. Roberta's Blood Trail is another, which is the OVA series, follows another recurring character, Roberta, who is a very deadly maid. Anyway, this is a really fun, action-filled, classic series. I think most people know of it. If you haven't checked it out, do. I do also recommend the dub. It's very punchy. But be forewarned, Ravi has a foul mouth. Like, if you're not someone who's comfortable with cursing, this is probably not the show for you. I don't know why you'd be comfortable with hyper violence and not cursing, but everyone's different. This is a very violent show. There's a lot of guns, there's a lot of explosions, there's a lot of implications of not very nice things, which kind of comes with the territory when we're talking about the mafia and their various dealings. It's it's really good. I enjoy it a lot. It's done by Madhouse, so it looks great even now, despite its age. And it's just an all-around really fun, exciting, heart-pumping, dramatic when it needs to be, a series that I think a lot of people have enjoyed and will hopefully continue to enjoy. And finally, for anime, I picked up some of these releases because I was needing them, and they've been out for a little while now. This is parts 4 and parts 5 of the 2011 Hunter x Hunter release. So this collects from episodes 51 up until 99. So a solid almost 50 episodes here. This, as you can probably tell, collects all of Breed Island and then the first part of the Chimera Ant arc. Volume 6 and 7 also have Chimera Ant arc, but I do believe that, 7 is the last one, so that also has the election arc, which is the final arc within this anime adaptation. I love this series. I make no secret about my love for Yoshihiro Togashi. I enjoy all of his manga that I've read, all of the anime versions of his manga that have been made, including the 1999 version of Hunter x Hunter. Although I would agree that along with most people, that this is sort of the more quintessential Hunter x Hunter anime adaptation, mainly because there's a lot more of it, it's more consistent throughout, and obviously having one creative team behind the entire series makes it more cohesive as a product. I also really so this series was my first introduction to Hunter x Hunter and Togashi's works at all. I will always say that I will always know the day that I got the year that I got my Crunchyroll premium subscription, because the week that I did, it was so I could watch all the new stuff that had just aired, and the first episode of this show was one of the first things that I watched with that new subscription, because it had just been released. So I watched this show week to week from 2011 up until 2014 when it ended, and I loved every minute of it. It made me a huge fan, and since then I've seen the older version, I've seen all of it, I've read all of it, and I'm a big fangirl now. But I feel like this series, even from the very beginning, this particular adaptation, I should say, was really made by people who understand the work and who are big fans of the work. Megumi Han, who is the voice of Gon, and then Maria Issei, who is the voice of Killua in particular, did a wonderful job. The fact that Megumi Han had said that Gon was like one of her all-time favorite characters that she wanted to voice, the fact that they actually had her mother voice Mito-san, for who herself is a very accomplished voice actress. You may know her as Luna from the classic Sailor Moon. So yeah, I've never seen this dubbed. I might watch it dubbed one day. It's not really a high priority for me. But I love the voice cast in this. I think everything they did was right. They didn't, comparatively to the 1999 anime, there isn't a huge amount of filler or anything. There's a little bits where things have been fleshed out, but it's all in service to what's pre-existing to the world. And I'm not saying that the 1999 filler was bad. In fact, I think a lot of it is very, very good, but I do think that there are some that's unnecessary. And also because it's an earlier work, because at that point Hunter x Hunter hadn't been running for a super long time, hadn't been published for a super long time. The director in particular had a different perspective on the characters, which I don't think are very true to the original manga, which is kind of my biggest issue with the older version. Again, I love the older version, but out of the two, I would say that this is my favorite, and it's a more uneven thing. But like I've said with Fullmetal Alchemist before, I really like when a series has multiple adaptations and you can see how different creators you know, take these stories and interpret the stories and make them into their own thing. So that's all good. I'm glad that it all exists. But needless to say, Hunter x Hunter, this series in particular is very near and dear to my heart. I'm very happy to finally pick these up. I still need to get the last two and the final film, which is not very good, but I'm a completionist, so I will have to get it at some point. Yeah. If you haven't checked it out, it is on Crunchyroll in its entirety. It is released in its entirety on disc. It's very, very, very good, and especially for like, I guess this perhaps qualifies as a long-running Jump title. It's not anywhere near the length of like a One Piece or a Naruto or a Bleach, but it's 148 episodes, I believe. So there's a lot of episodes to enjoy, and it covers a lot of the manga, pretty much all of the manga that had been released up until that point. And because of the constant hiatuses, we haven't gotten too much farther past then since. And it ends at a very, very, very good spot. I think it in itself as well, a very complete package. Again, comparatively to the 1999 version, which ended at a relatively okay spot, but a lot of the threads, and it didn't feel like really the ending to the story, especially the ending of Gon's story, where this, it feels more like it is. Because if you've read the manga, you know that Gon really isn't in the story right now, and hasn't been for years because of hiatuses. So yeah, really, really wonderful series, wonderful acting, wonderful animation, just a wonderful adaptation. The music's great. It's so good. And yes, I'm biased, but I'm just really, really happy that we did manage to get this series in its entirety in English as well, on disc, because it, again, like a lot of titles, especially these longer titles nowadays, it went unlicensed for a long time. And I'm not a huge fan of Viz's anime side of their company. I don't tend to buy a lot of their stuff just because it's not really stuff I'm interested in. But this was a must-have for me as soon as it was announced. And now I'm just trying to play catch-up. And I should actually sit down and rewatch this series again because, as I said, I love it. And it's so good. So that's it. That's all of my anime and I guess merchandise and live action stuff that I got for the month of May. More than I expected, mainly because I picked some things up in a sale. And the only thing I was certain that I was going to get for this month was Black Lagoon, because this took a long time for me. It took like 2 months to ship to me, as this seems to be the case now. I mean, not just because of distance, but obviously because of mail holdup because of Corona. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on any of these shows if you watch them, if you haven't watched them, if they sound interesting to you, if you agree with my opinions, totally disagree with my opinions, whatever. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As per always, my Twitter is in the description below. You can find me at collectingg, one word, and G being GEE. I also have my Book Depository affiliate link down there, which is always there. Feel free to use it if you want to. No obligation to, of course, but I would really appreciate if you did. And I think that's everything. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye till then.